The Debt Collector and the Duke's Secret. HFY Sci-Fi Story. The twin suns of Valar Prime hung low over the crimson sky, turning the silver towers of the Duke's palace into spears of light. Captain Ryan Holt adjusted his coat as his small human shuttle touched down on the landing pad. His boots met the black stone with a heavy sound, and the air smelled of iron and ozone. He had come to collect a debt, simple, clean, by the book. The Galactic Trade Guild had rules. Debts must be honored, and the Valar Duke had ignored payment for over 3 cycles. Ryan was not a soldier anymore, not since the human wars ended, but the guild often sent humans when things needed to be done quietly. Humans had a reputation out here, part legend, part warning. 2 guards approached, tall reptilian beings with dark green scales and golden armor. Their eyes slitted like blades. One hissed, "Captain Holt, the Duke awaits you." Ryan gave a nod, his expression calm, but inside he measured every detail. The weapons, the distance to cover, the exits, habits from an old life. They led him through echoing halls lined with black marble and portraits of Valar nobility, each face proud and cruel. Servants bowed low as he passed, their eyes avoiding his. It was strange, he thought. The silence here, no laughter, no music, just the quiet hum of machines and the distant thunder from the storms outside. The Duke of Valar, Lord Therax, sat on a throne of obsidian, his long tail curling lazily beside him. Jewels glittered across his scaled chest. His smile was all teeth. "Human," the Duke said slowly, his voice like gravel dragged over metal. "I was told the guild sends collectors, not soldiers." Ryan's gaze stayed firm. "The guild sends whoever gets the job done, Your Grace. The debt is 3 years late. This is your final notice." The Duke leaned forward, eyes glowing faintly gold. "You come into my court. You threaten me over numbers and paper. Perhaps you forget whose planet this is." Ryan felt the weight of the alien's stare, but he didn't flinch. "I don't forget. I also don't leave without what's owed," he replied, calm, steady, like a man who had stood in darker rooms before. A faint laugh rolled through the hall. Sharp and cold, the Duke waved his clawed hand. "Come, dine first, Captain. I insist. Perhaps we can negotiate." Ryan didn't like it, but refusing would draw suspicion, so he followed. They walked through golden doors into a dining hall lit by hovering lanterns. The smell of roasted meat and alien spices filled the air. Long tables stood empty except for one seat beside the Duke. As servants brought food, Ryan noticed something strange. A sound, soft, almost like singing. It drifted from beyond the far wall. Faint but human in tone, he looked toward the sound, but a servant quickly stepped into his view, head bowed low. The Duke spoke again, pouring a dark liquid into crystal cups. "Tell me, Captain, what do humans crave most? Gold, power, or blood?" Ryan smiled slightly. "Freedom," he said. "We crave freedom more than anything." The Duke's golden eyes narrowed. "Freedom," he repeated as if tasting the word. "A dangerous dream for lesser races." The meal went on, but Ryan's attention never left that faint sound behind the wall. It came and went like a whisper, haunting. When the dinner ended, he bowed politely and asked to rest before departure. The Duke agreed too easily. "Of course, human. Your quarters are prepared. You will find them comfortable." The corridors at night were darker. Shadows moved like living things. The guards were fewer. Ryan slipped from his room quietly, years of soldier training guiding each step. The sound came again, clearer now, a soft voice singing in a language, not Valar, not human, something ancient. He followed the sound to a locked door at the end of the west wing. Strange symbols burned faintly across it, security seals older than the guild itself. Ryan pressed his ear against the metal. A breath, a whisper. "Please, help me." He froze, every instinct in him alert. A human voice. No, not exactly human. Something softer, clearer. He checked his scanner. Life signs detected, one inside. Readings unstable. His hand reached for his sidearm, then stopped. This was not a job anymore. It was a trap or something worse. The door hissed open suddenly. A small figure stumbled out. She was not Valar. Her skin glowed faintly silver under the light, her eyes wide and luminous blue. She looked at him as if she had seen a ghost. "You're human," she whispered. "They told me humans were gone." Ryan stared, his pulse heavy. "Who are you?" She trembled, her wrists still bound by metal cuffs. "Liara," she said. "The Duke's wife." The last word cracked as she spoke it. "He keeps me here. He feeds from my mind, please, before he returns." A roar thundered down the hall, alien voices shouting in the Duke's language. Alarms blared. Ryan grabbed her hand. "Run," he said, pulling her toward the service tunnels. The ground shook as heavy footsteps approached. As they vanished into the dark passageways, Liara gasped. "You don't understand. He's building something, a weapon that feeds on thought, on life. If he finishes it, your kind will be the first to burn." Ryan didn't answer. He just tightened his grip. The mission had changed. No longer about debts or money. Something greater had awakened. And somewhere deep inside, the old soldier in him smiled. Humanity's story wasn't over yet. The Hidden Bride, HFY Sci-Fi story. The tunnels beneath the Duke's palace were old. Carved long before the Valar Empire rose to power, Ryan led the glowing woman through narrow corridors lit by faint blue moss. The air smelled of dust and machine oil. Far above them, alarms still screamed. The entire palace was waking up. Liara stumbled, chains clinking softly around her wrists. Ryan slowed his pace, keeping his blaster ready. "We need to move fast," he said, his voice low, calm. She nodded weakly, her breathing shallow. Her silver skin shimmered under the flickering lights like moonlight on water. "I can guide you," she whispered. "These tunnels connect to the old hangars, but they've been sealed for years." "Sealed doesn't mean closed," Rian replied, kicking open a rusted gate. The noise echoed like thunder, dust falling from the ceiling. They entered a wider chamber. Ancient engines rusted into silence. Giant cargo crates stacked to the roof, half covered in web-like cables. Liara paused, touching the metal wall. Symbols flared to life under her fingers, glowing patterns that formed words Ryan couldn't read. "This place remembers," she said softly. "Before the Duke, my people built this city. We shared our knowledge. We built peace. Then the Valars came." Ryan watched her, curious and uneasy. "You're not one of them," he said. "So why marry their Duke?" Her face twisted in pain. "I didn't. I was taken. My mind can power their machines. The Duke calls me his bride because it makes his crime noble." She looked up at him, eyes bright with anger and sorrow. "He feeds from me, through the link. It lets him control his fleets. But it kills me slowly." Ryan clenched his jaw, anger rising. "Then we'll break that link," he said simply. Before she could reply, a metallic clang echoed behind them. Ryan turned fast, blaster raised. 3 Valar guards dropped from the ceiling vents, their armor gleaming black, their claws extended. "Human!" One hissed, "By order of the Duke, surrender the asset." Ryan didn't answer. He fired once. The bolt struck the lead guard square in the chest, sending him crashing backward. The other 2 lunged, claws scraping sparks from the floor. Ryan rolled aside, shot again, and the second one fell. The third caught him by the throat, slamming him against a wall. The guard's breath was hot and foul, his fangs bared. "You think your kind still matter?" he snarled. "You're dust beneath our boots." Ryan gritted his teeth, pulled a knife from his boot, and drove it between the alien's ribs. The creature roared and fell, his armor hissing with green steam. Ryan coughed, catching his breath. "You talk too much," he muttered, wiping blood from his chin. Liara stared at him, shock and fear mixing with something else. "Respect." "You fight like your world is still at war," she said. Ryan gave a small, grim smile. "Maybe it is." They moved again. Following the dim light deeper underground, the tunnels opened into an ancient chamber filled with towering crystal pillars, glowing faintly with inner light. Liara stopped, her eyes wide. "This is it," she whispered. "The mind core, where he drains me." The air pulsed with strange energy, faint voices echoing like ghosts in Ryan's ears, memories that weren't his. He stepped forward cautiously. "Can you shut it down?" "I can," she said, her hands trembling as she touched the crystals. "But once I start, he'll feel it. He'll know exactly where we are." Ryan nodded. "Then we make it quick." The crystals began to hum, light spreading like liquid through the walls. Liara's body glowed brighter, pain flashing across her face. He's in my head," she gasped. "He's trying to pull me back." Ryan grabbed her shoulders, grounding her. "Focus, you're stronger than him," he said. "He needs you more than you need him." Her breathing steadied. The light flared, and suddenly the entire palace above trembled. Systems shutting down. Engines dying. The Duke roared somewhere far away, his voice booming through the comms. "Lyra, what have you done?" Ryan pulled her close as debris fell from the ceiling. "Time to go," he said, leading her toward an old blast door. She used her remaining strength to open it. Light poured in. Cold, metallic daylight. They were at the edge of the old hangar. Inside sat a ship, small but intact, its hull marked with human insignia. Old Earth design. Ryan froze. This is Terran make," he whispered. "How did it get here?" Liara smiled faintly. "My people found it centuries ago. It was the first human ship to reach the stars. You called it the Dauntless. We kept it, waiting for your return." Ryan felt something stir deep in his chest. Pride, grief, hope all mixed together. "Then let's wake her up," he said. The engines roared weakly at first, then caught fire with life, energy pulsing through the floor, above them. The Duke's warships began to descend, dark shapes blotting out the sun. Liara slumped into the co-pilot seat, pale but smiling. "He'll chase us to the edge of the galaxy," she whispered. Ryan grinned, hands on the controls. "Then we'll make sure he never catches us." The Dauntless lifted from the ground, fire and light bursting around them, alarms screaming across the city as they broke through the crimson clouds. The Duke's furious voice echoed through the comms. "You can run, human, but you will never escape Valar justice." Ryan looked at Liara, her eyes glowing softly in the cockpit light. "You're wrong," he said quietly. "This time, justice has wings." The stars opened before them like a sea of freedom, and the ship vanished into the void, chased by war and destiny alike. Fugitives among the stars. HFY Sci-Fi story. The stars stretched like silver scars across the void. The Dauntless cut through them in silence, its old Terran hull humming with life again after centuries of sleep. Ryan Holt sat in the pilot's chair, eyes fixed on the fading glow of Valar Prime far behind them. The alarms had stopped, but the danger had not. Every radar sweep told the same story. The Duke's ships were hunting them. Liara sat beside him, her silver skin pale, her breathing shallow. She had burned herself nearly to death breaking the mind core, yet even in exhaustion, she carried an aura of quiet strength. "He won't stop," she murmured. "He will come with everything he has." Ryan adjusted the controls, his hands steady. "Then he'll have to catch us first," he said, his voice calm but his eyes sharp. The Dauntless was old but built by human hands, its engines designed for speed, its systems crude but loyal. He had patched the holes with scavenged parts and pure instinct. Liara turned to him, her gaze soft. "You still fight like your kind never lost?" Ryan gave a faint smirk. "Maybe we just never learned how to give up." Silence filled the cockpit for a moment, broken only by the hum of the engines through the glass canopy. They watched the stars bend as they entered slipstream, blue light wrapping around the ship like a living storm. Liara closed her eyes, resting, but her mind was still open. Ryan could feel her presence, calm yet vast. When the ship dropped back into real space, they were above a broken moon, its surface scarred by ancient war. Ryan guided the Dauntless into the shadow of the craters. Hiding from scanners, he powered down the engines, letting the darkness swallow them. "We'll rest here," he said, standing. "The Duke's fleets will sweep every trade route, but they'll miss this graveyard." Liara looked out the window, her voice soft. "This was once a temple world of my people. Before the Valars took it, they burned it when we refused to build their weapons." Ryan's jaw tightened. "They call it civilization, we call it conquest." He moved to the cargo bay. Pulling open an old storage crate, inside were relics of Earth, an old flag patch, A worn-out data chip, a rifle built during the human wars. Liara followed, touching the patch gently. You came so far and still you fight, she said. What drives you, Reinhold? He looked at her for a long moment. Because once you've seen your home burn, you don't wait for the fire to find you again. Liara smiled faintly, though sadness lingered in her eyes. Then maybe our worlds are not so different. Before he could reply, a soft beep sounded from the console. Ryan froze. He hurried back to the cockpit. The radar flashed red, multiple contacts emerging from warp, the Duke's insignia blazing bright. They found us, he said grimly. 4 interceptors. Fast ones. Liara's hand brushed the console, her touch lighting up dormant systems. I can help. I remember their command codes, she said, energy pulsing from her skin into the controls. But it will drain me. Ryan shook his head. You've done enough, she met his eyes, her voice firm. You freed me, Captain. Let me return the favor. The Dauntless came alive. Shields flaring, cannons rotating into position. The old Terran ship roared with power it hadn't felt in centuries. Ryan grinned. Let's show them what humanity builds when it's desperate. The Valar ships descended like hunting birds, plasma fire lighting the void. Ryan spun the Dauntless hard to the left. Lasers streaking past, one bolt grazed their shield, shaking the cabin. Hold on, he shouted. The human ship dove into the moon's debris field, twisting between shattered rock and drifting wreckage. Liara reached out mentally, her power extending through the ship's systems. She could feel the enemy, their signals, their commands. They're using shared minds, she whispered. I can confuse them. Her eyes glowed blue, energy crackling through the controls. The Valar interceptors suddenly broke formation, turning on each other. Their targeting systems scrambled. 2 of them collided, exploding in a flash of blue light. Ryan didn't waste the moment. He spun the ship and fired the forward railguns. Old human tungsten rounds tore through the last pursuer's hull. Silence followed. Debris spinning into the void. Ryan exhaled slowly, his pulse steadying. Not bad for an antique, he said, glancing at Liara, but she had slumped in her seat. Unconscious, her glow dimmed. He rushed to her side, checking her pulse. It was weak but steady, her skin cold. He wrapped her in a thermal blanket and carried her to the med bay. Don't you dare die on me, he muttered. We're just getting started. Hours passed, the ship drifting in the quiet dark. Ryan sat beside her, staring out at the broken stars. His thoughts restless, he remembered Earth. The cities reduced to dust, the people scattered among alien worlds. Humanity had been broken but never erased. Liara stirred, her voice faint. You risked everything for me. Why? Ryan looked down at her, his voice quiet. Because you reminded me what we were before the wars. Before the fear, we used to fight for what was right, not just what we were owed. Her fingers brushed his hand weakly. Then maybe together we can remind the galaxy. Before he could answer, a blinking light appeared on the console, an incoming transmission, not from the Duke, but from someone else. Ryan stood and opened the channel. A rough human voice came through, filled with disbelief by the stars. Ryan Holt, is that really you? Ryan froze, recognizing the voice. Commander Vega? The same, the voice replied. You've stirred up a storm, Captain. Half the sector's talking about the human who stole the Duke's bride. The Guild wants your head, the Duke wants your ashes. But me and the old crew, we want to help. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Help? Vega chuckled. We're putting something together, a fleet, small but loud. Time humanity stopped crawling and started standing again. You in? Ryan looked back at Liara, resting peacefully, the stars burning bright beyond the glass. Yeah, he said slowly. I think it's time. Outside, the debris field drifted silently, but in that silence, something had begun to move. Humanity's defiance reborn among the stars. The War of Secrets, HFY Sci-Fi story. The Dauntless drifted into the shadow of a dying star, her hull scarred and blackened from battle. Ryan sat at the command chair as static danced across the ship's worn monitors. The Duke's message still echoed across the comms. Surrender the asset or burn with her. He had said, his voice full of arrogance and venom. Ryan had ignored it. Humans didn't surrender, they adapted. A fleet shimmered into view beyond the nebula. Patched ships, scavenged from forgotten wars, each one carrying the symbol of Earth's lost colonies. Ryan's heart tightened. The resistance, he murmured. They actually came. Commander Vega's face flickered onto the holodisplay. His hair grayer, his eyes still sharp. You've got the whole sector watching. Ryan, he said with a crooked smile, steal one Duke's wife, and suddenly every human wants to remember how to fight again. Ryan smirked faintly. Guess I still know how to make friends. Vega's gaze shifted behind him. To Liara, standing in the glow of the console, her silver skin reflecting soft blue light. That her? He asked quietly. The alien bride who started all this? Ryan nodded. Her name's Liara, and she's not a prize. She's a prisoner who knows how to end the Duke's empire. Liara bowed her head slightly, her voice calm but strong. The Duke's weapon feeds on thought on living minds. It will erase free will itself if completed. But there's a weakness, one hidden in the Valar code, Vega frowned. You're saying we can turn it against them? Yes, she said. But only if we reach the core station orbiting Valar Prime. It's where he channels the energy. If we can override it, his fleet will lose control. Silence fell for a moment, the weight of her words heavy in the air. Ryan looked at Vega. We'll need every ship you've got. Vega nodded slowly. Then let's wake the ghosts. Hours later, deep within the Dauntless, the humans gathered. Old soldiers, miners, engineers, all wearing makeshift armor and patched suits. They listened as Ryan spoke, his voice steady. They think humanity forgot how to fight. They think we became beggars and scavengers. But we still remember who we are. Today we remind them. A roar of voices filled the hangar, fists pounding against metal. Old war songs echoing through the ship. Liara watched from the shadows, emotion flickering across her eyes. You speak like a leader, she said softly when they were alone again. Ryan shook his head. I'm just a man who's tired of being told to kneel. When the fleet entered warp, the stars blurred into rivers of light. The hum of engines mixed with the rhythm of human hearts beating in defiance. As they neared the core station, Liara connected to the systems, pain tightening her expression. He's waiting for us, she whispered. He knows we're coming. Ryan's jaw set. Then let's not disappoint him. They emerged from warp into chaos. Valar ships filled the void, massive angular beasts glowing with plasma fire. The Duke's flagship hung in the center, a floating fortress, its hull marked with alien runes and burning energy. All units, Ryan said into the comms. We fight smart. We hit fast. No retreat. The human fleet surged forward, missiles streaking through the dark. Valar cannons answered with waves of energy. Explosions blossomed like dying stars. Rian's hands flew across the controls. Liara, how long until you breach the core? Her voice trembled but held steady. 30 seconds. Keep them busy. The Dauntless darted through the battlefield, weaving between wreckage and enemy fire. Railguns spitting tungsten rounds that tore through alien hulls. Vega's voice crackled through the comms. We've lost 2 frigates, but the main line holds. Finish the job, Ryan. Liara screamed as light burst from her palms, her link to the core snapping open. I have it, she cried. I can shut it down, but I need a final key. Your neural code. Ryan hesitated only a moment. Do it, he said without asking what it meant. She pressed her hands against his chest, and for a second their minds touched. He saw flashes, her memories, her world burning, her captivity, her loneliness, and she saw his. Earth in flames, soldiers dying, the sound of a mother whispering fight back. Their pain fused into strength. The core's light flared white, spreading across the battlefield. The Duke's ships froze mid-motion, systems collapsing, power draining away. Through the comms, the Duke's enraged voice thundered, You think this changes anything, human? You will drown in your own rebellion. Ryan replied calmly. Then I'll drown standing. He turned the Dauntless toward the Duke's flagship, engines burning hot. Liara beside him, tears shining in her eyes. He's linked to the core. If we destroy it, he dies too, she whispered. Then let's pay the debt, Ryan said. The Dauntless accelerated, shields flaring as plasma fire tore across the hull. Alarms blaring. Vega's voice shouted over the channel. Ryan, don't do this. Ryan smiled faintly. You always said humans were too stubborn to die properly. They slammed into the flagship's hull, fire engulfing everything. Light brighter than the sun consumed the ship. For a heartbeat, the galaxy held its breath. Then silence. Moments later, debris drifted through space. The Duke's fortress gone, the core destroyed, Vega's fleet scattered but alive. In the wreckage, a faint signal blinked. The emergency beacon of the Dauntless. Inside, among twisted metal and fading light, Ryan opened his eyes. His armor cracked, his body broken. Liara's hand in his. Her glow faint, but alive. "It's over," she whispered. Ryan managed a weak smile. "No," he said. "It's just beginning." Outside, Vega's ships regrouped, the humans cheering as the news spread. The Duke was dead, the core destroyed, and the human spirit, once forgotten, now burned brighter than any star, the debt paid in blood. HFY Sci-Fi story. The wreck of the Dauntless drifted in the ruins of the Duke's fleet, silent but alive. Emergency lights blinked like fading stars inside the shattered hull. Smoke curled through the corridors, and sparks fell like fireflies in the dark. Ryan Holt gasped for air, his lungs burning, each breath a battle. But he was still there, still human, still fighting. Liara crouched beside him, her silver hair streaked with ash, her hands glowing faintly as she tried to heal the burns across his chest. "Don't move," she whispered, voice shaking. "Your heart is failing." Ryan laughed weakly, the sound hollow but real. "Been failing for years," he murmured. "Just never had time to notice." The ship's systems flickered, the AI core sputtering to life. A cold, mechanical voice echoed through the bridge. "Warning, reactor collapse in progress, evacuation required." Liara looked around, panic in her eyes. "We have to leave, Ryan. The Dauntless won't hold." He grabbed her wrist, his hand trembling. "No, we can't leave yet. The signal." "We have to send it." She stared at him, confused. "Signal?" Ryan nodded weakly toward the console. "The proof of what the Duke was doing, the data from the core, you linked with it, remember? It's still in you. If you send it, the whole galaxy will know the truth." Her breath caught, realization dawning. "If I transmit it through the guild channels, every planet, every system will know what he was." Ryan finished, coughing hard, blood on his lips. "No more lies, no more chains." Liara hesitated, tears forming in her luminous eyes. "You won't survive this." He smiled faintly, eyes glassy but burning with resolve. "Doesn't matter. Someone has to pay the debt." Outside, the wreckage field glowed with plasma storms. Vega's fleet circled carefully, search beacons sweeping through the debris. "We've got a signal," Vega's comm officer shouted. "It's the Dauntless, weak but alive." Vega leaned forward, eyes wide. "Patch it through." Ryan's face appeared, bloodied and pale, static dancing across the feed. "Commander," he said softly, "you did it, but the truth needs to spread. I'm sending everything we found. Make it count." "Ryan, hold on, we're coming for you," Vega barked, his voice breaking. Ryan shook his head slowly. "Too late, old friend, ship's dying, and I've got one last favor to ask. Don't let humanity forget what we were tonight." The transmission cut out, replaced by a burst of light. Liara stood over the console, her body glowing like a star, energy pouring from her palms, her voice calm and filled with sorrow. "Forgive me," she whispered, "but you showed me what it means to fight." She sent the signal, the data exploding across the Galactic network, the truth burning through every transmission line, images of the Duke's crimes, the enslaved minds, the human courage that stopped it, all of it flooding the galaxy. No empire could silence it now. The reactor core flared, the Dauntless split apart, a wave of light washing over the battlefield. Vega's ships reeled from the shockwave, his crew shouting, "The core's gone. The human signal. It's everywhere." Vega stood in stunned silence, watching the light fade. "He did it," he whispered. "That stubborn bastard actually did it." Across the galaxy, things began to change. On mining worlds where humans had been slaves, workers laid down their tools and stared at the skies. On merchant ships, crews replayed the message in disbelief, the words spreading like wildfire. Humanity stands free. Liara's signal continued long after the Dauntless was gone, a living beacon carried by every relay, every ship, every whisper between stars, and in that message, Ryan's voice could still be heard faintly, calm and defiant. We came for a debt, but we found our soul instead. Months later, in the rebuilt command center of the human fleet, Vega stood before a new ship rising in the docks, larger, stronger, forged from the wreckage of the Dauntless. On its hull gleamed a single word in bold letters. Holt. Liara stepped beside him, alive but changed. Her body half energy, half light. The link with the core had remade her. He wouldn't have wanted a statue, she said softly. He'd want a ship that keeps moving. Vega nodded, his voice rough. Then she'll carry his name to every corner of the stars. Liara looked out at the glowing ship, the reflection of its light dancing in her eyes. The Duke thought humanity was a threat, she whispered. But he never understood. You are hope. The engines roared to life, shaking the hangar. The Holt rose into the void, its thrusters painting the darkness gold. Liara's voice echoed through the comms, reaching every allied world. This is Liara of Valar, survivor of the core, messenger of the human spirit. The galaxy owes its freedom to a man who refused to leave a debt unpaid. Remember his name, remember your strength, remember, humanity stands. As the Holt vanished into the stars, Vega saluted silently, and somewhere in the endless dark it felt like the universe itself bowed in respect, because humanity's greatest weapon was never its ships, nor its guns, but its will to rise, again and again, until the stars themselves remembered why they feared and admired the humans who never quit.